This conference will now be recorded.
Commissioner, it's up to you. Honestly, if you want to take it off when you talk, we're far enough apart, so if it makes it easier.
Let me just ask, is there anyone in this room who's uncomfortable if I take down my mask? Because if you feel uncomfortable, I'm happy to put it back on. Okay. Absent that, because we are socially distanced this time of pandemic, I'm going to replace my mask whenever I'm not speaking. And because it's easier for me to tell what you're saying, if I can see certain people in the audience will have sympathy with that. If you want to take down your mask, I'm comfortable with that. I would note, all socially distanced, shielded in order to observe the protocol. Or we're in our family groups, because we are here today for a joyous occasion, and we have family here with us. We're blessed by that. Okay, here we go then. This is the meeting of the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners, a work session virtual meeting held on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. It's 12 noon. There are ways to join in. We have folks joining us on virtually. There are people not visible who are listening to us. So what I'd ask you to do is speak directly into the microphone. You'll see that commissioners and staff have microphones in front of us. These are the source of the audio feed. We need that audio feed to be clear and distinct. So when you speak into the microphone, speak slowly, speak distinctly, so that the people in the room physically hear and the people in the virtual room can all hear what we are saying. That's how we connect with each other and with our folks. So thank you for that indulgence. Anyone have any questions about that? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues with formal staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and to listen to discussions, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. The first item of business is the swearing in of our new commissioners, Tioka and May. So, Mr. Gardner, have you taken care of handing out microphones, and the judge is ready and the commissioners are ready?
The judge is ready.
Yes, ma'am, I believe you. So, please proceed then.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I don't know who wants to go first. Courtney, maybe we can go first with you. So I just want to say before I get started, I had an opportunity to meet both of you here this, having run an election and a test election. I know how nice it is not a- but congratulations to you both, and I look forward to working with all of you forward with the community. I will say as well, in aspire to public service during this time in our nation's history and what we're dealing with needs expected. And it takes a lot to get through day to day with what we're all living with, and to be willing to step up, walk into meetings, and try to deal with the business and community means a lot. So as a citizen, not as a judge, thank you for being with us. So we have here the oath, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it and have you cite it after me, and then I'm going to have you sign it. Okay? So I, Courtney Banks,
There we go. Courtney Bang,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Oregon,
that I will support the Charter of Clatsop County,
that I will support the Charter of Clatsop County,
and that I will faithfully and honorably
that I will faithfully and honorably
conduct myself in the office of Clatsop County Commissioner for District 4
conduct myself for Clatsop County Commissioner of District 4,
to which I have been elected to the best of my ability.
of which I've been elected to the best of my ability.
Could we clap now?
Thank you. Something. What do you got there?
Sir, please put that.
So you're going to use that as we do your oath. Again, congratulations to you. I'll give you this if it'll help. You know.
I, John Toyoka, swear that I will and laws of the State of Oregon,
That I will support the Charter of Clatsop County,
that I will support the Charter of Clatsop County,
and that I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself in the office of Clatsop County Commissioner for District 2,
and that I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself in the office of Clatsop County Commissioner, District 2,
to which I have been elected to the best of my ability.
that have been elected to the best of my ability.
Sign here.
Your Honor,
Thank you,
we're
Judge.
graced by your presence. Thank you so much. Well, yes. I would note that we are missing Commissioner Webb today. She's not able to be with us.
We all have to listen when the IT guy tells us what to do, right? First lesson in being a county commissioner. Commissioner Webb isn't able to be with us today, but she sends her congratulations and regards as well and looks forward to joining us soon. Okay. Board communications. Commissioner Aquila, would you like to start us off with board communications, please?
Well, first, welcome. You know, I'm so excited to work with you. We've got a lot of big push to get county vaccinated, protected. Vaccine clinic, fifth clinic, we have vaccinate caregivers, first responders, 406 vaccines, which is another 8 today. Third, this is just a start. and this undertaking always is getting community, rebuilding our business, struggling, and then top of this. So I'm excited to embark on with you, Thompson, and Commissioner Webb. Exciting time. Scary time in some ways, but great. The county health department, sheriff town. But yeah, and
Thank you, sir. So, Commissioner Aquila represents District 1. Commissioner Toyoka, the Commissioner for District 2. Would you like to go next, please?
Well, I just wanted to say, thank you. It's been a very incredible journey to get here today, and I'm just grateful for the support of my family, wife, children, here, David Lum, Shirley Lum, uh, everyone within the district. Everybody has been very incredibly supportive. I look forward to returning that trust as good service. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bangs.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing for me is I'm really excited to get started. It's been a long 6 months waiting this moment, full of just eagerness to get going. I am incredibly for my family and for just for like the faith they've put in. It's almost daunting to think about. Uh, but but but
Thank you so much. So, colleagues, I sit before you today representing the southern half of Clatsop County. I don't know how much time you spent looking at the district map. District 5, in order to get 20% of the population, encompasses geographically just over half of Clatsop County. Goes from the ocean and seaside to the Columbia County line and down to the Tillamook County line. So a broad diversity of interest in that district. And being, as you've said, I'd put it in my own words, I view it as a sacred trust. I started in public service in 1968, which is before some people in this room were born. But it's beautiful, inspiring work to empower ourselves and each other to do good and be good together, to provide the services and listen to the people in such a way that we bring out the best in each other, and we provide adequate and stable income, we provide public health, public safety, roads, county services that are essential, and we're devoted to those causes. We're being teamed together. The existing carrying over commissioners, Commissioner Aquila, Commissioner Webb, and myself, have been working with staff on a strategic plan. I've seen you in the meetings. I know that you're tuned into it. Well, now you get to have input and you get to carry out. You've been involved with us. You can say you've been waiting, but we know you've also been working. And Commissioner Aquila and I are grateful for the way we've learned to work with you already, which makes us even happier and more inspired to have you with us today, because we see that going forward, we can empower our staff to do good. We have that one employee, our county manager, seconded only by our other employee, county council, who guide us who support us, who keep us related to reality as we listen to everybody who wants to talk to us. And I don't know about you, but I was sitting socially distanced for 2.5 hours on Sunday evening in my garage listening to what neighbors had to say. So I'm pretty sure that happens to you as well. We get to go forward. I look to Commissioner Aquila to keep us tied into the healthcare network. That's invaluable. In a time of COVID, that's our point person. So I think each one of us has an interest in economic development because we see that what has to happen to have a healthy county is to have a healthy economy. We're interested in a healthy environment that has to go hand in hand with a healthy economy. So I think we're aligned in that and eager to go forward. I've focused not just on Clatsop County. I've got a background being a statewide program head. So I just think in those terms. I've been going to the Association of Oregon Counties for over 6 years now, because that's where the commissioners and judges come from all over Oregon to talk and work together. I just got a call yesterday from the first vice president of AOC saying, well, the executive board of AOC has decided that we want you to be the liaison that goes between the membership committee and the budget and finance committee as a vice chair. That's an important role. It took me 6 years to get to be a vice chair in a significant committee. I was a vice chair in transportation and ECDEV. I can't impact much there. This one will put Clatsop County everywhere, working with all of the other judges and county commissioners all over Oregon, so we can have common cause with them. I understand you're headed for county college. Delighted with that. Delighted. That's where you get to learn what the job of commissioner is. And it gives access for Clatsop County to have more impact. An old-time commissioner, when I came on, had this phrase, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Oh, ho, I said. I'd better get to the table. My intention for my service, for our service, is that Clatsop County is more visible, more credible, and more effective. That means for our people. That's our calling. That's our trust. That's the foundation for how and why we work together. So we can do that, right? So I've got this vice chair to be the liaison and reach out to all the judges and commissioners. That's really swell. Okay, let's look at something more important for Clatsop County. Tomorrow in this room, there's going to be a meeting with a significant state legislator, state senator, the chair of the Oregon Broadband Advisory, is it Commission or Council? OBAC, the broadband folk, right? Ariane Colombo, who's the executive director of COLPAC and Northwest Act. She's our regional economic development person. We've already got a broadband action team through COLPAC. Ariane will be here tomorrow, the county manager and me. And we'll be here to talk about how we can do more broadband as soon as possible in Clatsop County. Who's got the money? How do we get some of it? How do we do good here? We need it for healthcare. We need it for education. We need it for commerce. We need it for social interaction. So going forward, that's happening tomorrow. I'm excited. We're going to have fun. Okay. County manager, did you want to have anything to say right now?
No, I'd just like to welcome the new commissioners. It's been great getting to know you over the last few months. I'm sure we bored you to tears, but you still showed up anyhow. So thank you for that. I just want to encourage you that as we move forward, reach out to me anytime. Call, email, text, and Therese will be reaching out to set up some regular meetings, just so we put it on the calendar and just touch base regularly. So welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. County Council, did you have anything to say?
No, but I want to say thank you and welcome. We're glad to have you.
We're blessed to have County Council on staff. That's a relatively recent change. It like having our county manager with the caliber of expertise and I'm trying not to be church lady here, but I am, so it's going to come out. A county manager who brings the spirit of grace to our operations with each other, with staff, with our constituents. That's invaluable. Having county council on staff means that we have access to the guidance and the support so that we operate in a way that is legal, that is ethical, that is efficient in a way that keeps us out of trouble. Because, you know, people want to come and tell us, I'm sure you've heard this already, right? Here's what you should do, and here's how you should do it. Because I did such and such for you, so you're obliged to let me tell you what to do, right? Has happened, yes? Of course. Yeah, more than once. Well, here's our staff to guide us. Here's each other for reality check. My personal rule of thumb, I listen to my conscience. I listen to the voice of God in my ear as I perceive it. I listen to my constituents, every single one of them, and they have wildly divergent points of view. And then I listen to my colleagues because we're elected to represent all of our best being, all of what everybody wants, and then how do we form our team together to make it all happen. Sure, piece of cake. Well, it's fabulous work. I mean, it's fabulous work. This is such an honor, such a privilege to come and do good work in the best way for people, for a place that we love. Doesn't get any better than that. Can't beat it with a stick. Okay. All right. Enough inspirational. Let's do a public health update.
I think Dr. Mike is on the phone, so he can join in.
It shows he's unmuted.
Can you hear me? This is Mike.
On the call? Oh, great. Thank you.
Oh,
yes,
can you hear me now?
Hear you.
Okay, great. This is Mike McNichol, Clatsop County Public Health Director. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll give you two updates. One is on the current case counts and what we're doing about those. As of today, we're at 614 cases in Clatsop County. So far, in the last 24 hours. We've also have our cumulative positive test rate right now is about 4.7%, which means that for every test we take, almost 4% of those are going to be positive, which is pretty high. We've had 3 fatalities. There's 1 COVID admit, and yet we have no COVID ICU beds at this moment. All of the people that we're in contact with are recuperating at home, and we still follow up doing contact tracing and making sure they have wraparound services for their daily needs are being met through our cooperative agreements with CCA and Consejo Hispano. So those things are still ongoing. The new wrinkle is now that we actually received vaccine in Clatsop County as of last week. Both Providence Seaside and CMH received vaccines, and they started their processes last week with doing PODs or points of distribution, and they're trying to get those completed as quickly as possible. We've all received the Moderna vaccine, and that's the product we're using. Clatsop County Public Health, we received only 100 doses, and we've already used 80 of those this week. We plan on finishing that up today and tomorrow. And then we've also been getting about 100 doses per week, and it looks like that's going to be our allocation until something happens with the distribution system, that we get more. So this week, Providence and CMH received no new vaccine, so So we'll be working with them to make sure that we cover all those folks in priority 1A as we've gone through before. So we're working through that list carefully. Yesterday we inoculated public health staff and Clatsop County Sheriff's Department patrol staff as well as the jail staff. And we plan on now moving with community action as well as CODA to make sure those folks are immunized, followed closely behind by Clatsop Behavioral Health, and that'll probably absorb the majority of our vaccine. In the meantime, we're going to be also working with the fire departments and police departments, have been covered by Providence and CMH respectively, and we're working through those folks. We continue to plan as a group this afternoon. County Manager Don Boone and I and Vincent Arts and others will plan to stand up our EOC again in a limited fashion, sort of like we did for when we were doing COVID testing and quarantining, to make sure that we're all still on the same page. This time we want to make sure as we roll out phase 2 that we're all working together in the county to go through the list as quickly as we can, although a back of a napkin calculation is going to take 7.6 years at the current rate of distribution of vaccine before we can actually get to everyone. So I'm hoping that those distributions allocations will increase significantly over time. We do have some anecdotal information that some of the long-term care facilities and memory facilities have been contacted by Walgreens. Walgreens will be the contract organization to fulfill those vaccine needs. And apparently many of those facilities have a planned POD for the 17th of this month. So it appears that those folks are going to get covered, although we're double checking to make sure everyone on that list has been contacted. So it's, again, just kind of like when we started with the whole testing and so forth. This is an ongoing story. We're going to improve as we go along, but as soon as we get vaccine in, we have the list and we know who we need to tag to get the vaccine in the arms, as they say. So we're ready to go as more vaccine comes. So I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Aquila.
I just have a comment. I appreciate the coordination. Pharmacies. There are a lot of moving parts. I think the vaccine information is different. That really is the information a lot of people are looking for. Before we get that out there to all list, outside of space, consulting this. Still, this gives some clarity out of where these, or what this, where we are.
If I could just add real quick to what Commissioner Aquila was saying is that information is certainly helpful, and thanks for staff for getting that up. I think though it's going to take a much more comprehensive communication effort, as Commissioner Aquila and I and others have spoken to, as we get into the more public side of the distribution, and that really has to start now. So part of convening this more of an EOC model is so that we can integrate the communications plan with the actual logistical planning for the vaccination rollout. So we understand that communication is going to be a top priority, and there's going to be a role for the board to help us do that. And as we develop that, we'll be talking to you about ways you can help support us. So that's just kind of a heads up as we move forward.
I think that's all excellent information. I would ask the clerk of the board to include in the minutes of this meeting the link that Dr. McNichol referenced, so that if people don't understand anything else about navigating the county website, they know if they come to this meeting, they can find a link. It might be good to have it on the front page as well. We just need all the help we can provide to people, because this is scary. People go into shock and brains don't work. Denial happens. And Commissioner Aquila, your expertise, again, is so critical in this that I'm looking to you to partner effectively with the county manager and Dr. McNichol to to help us all do our job better in this regard, because it is critically important.
As you know,
But
being involved in the vaccine.
and if I could just add a little more context just for the new commissioners also, is that, you know, a lot of what's been happening with COVID has been a local public health authority centric model. The vaccinations aren't that. And so it makes it a very challenging distribution model when there's some contracts with the federal government to have vaccine distributed into local communities. There's state contracts, state relationships that are bringing vaccinations into the community. Then there's vaccinations going to all of the approved vaccination providers, and then there's public health. So it's a um, you know, multi-channeled approach, which is making coordination tough. But we are coordinating actively with all these different partners. But it's an interesting model that we're trying to distribute through. I think overall we're doing pretty well in getting the vaccine out. Our biggest thing is we haven't received that much vaccine. So um, so it's just going to be an ongoing iterative thing um, that 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 we really manage as there's no one organization will be all part. So I just want to share that with you. If it looks kind of messy at times, it's because it is. So
I apologize for interrupting, but people are texting me and asking for everybody to speak up. They're having a hard time hearing. I apologize.
I really think it's going to be important to take off your mask while you're speaking. I don't know anybody who can articulate and be discerned through that mask. I hope you're comfortable with that. Thank you. Please interrupt us. Please let us know what we need to do our jobs right. That's kind of my mantra. If I'm missing something, tell me.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do.
The phrase is eat the mic.
Can I ask a question for clarification really fast?
Please do.
So what you're saying is that the vaccine is being distributed not just to county health, but to other distributors like Walgreens and so we are not the main player in the decisions of distribution.
no, I mean when it comes to the distribution plan, it's coming from very different entities. So we're all following the general guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
but the actual um, vaccine is going to multiple distribution outlets. And so even though Clatsop County and the hospital systems are coordinating really closely, and that's where a lot of the vaccinations will be coming through. That's not the totality of the vaccinations. And so even as we're coordinating, there are things happening that
Outside.
aren't even on our radar screen.
Okay.
And so we are trying to basically channel all those other efforts so that we can get a complete picture. And so we've been contacting the long-term care facilities as Dr. Mike mentioned, because we don't have any visibility on that. So the only thing we can do is actually contact them and find out what is the status and who are they working with, because there's no one providing that overall picture.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
you bet.
All right, I'm going to throw out some 25% phrases. We're in the midst of complex, adaptive, interactive systems. All new challenges, potentially fatal. Low frequency, high risk. We don't know, it's all new. So your question is perfect. We don't have a level of staff funding, nor do the hospitals or anybody else to do everything that we've always done. So we have to shift our focus. I'm looking at the county manager. Is this accurate? Would you speak more to that, please?
Sure. I mean, I think that I recall February of 2020 and all the work we were doing, and then March of 2020, our portfolio of priorities changed immediately. And that priority of COVID has been with us ever since. It's just morphed into different elements of our response. And now we're in the vaccination element, which means that we're going to be curtailing on the contact tracing element, which for a long time was one of our primary responsibilities. And so as we've gone through this, there has been impacts on other things that the county does. And we have mitigated some of that just by the fact that we have amazing staff that has put in amazing hours for the last 10 months. But there's always downstream impacts. And there's going to be downstream impacts within the public health department until we get everybody vaccinated. There's just no other way. So we're sensitive. We're still keeping WIC running. We're still keeping other central programs running. But we do have staff that are multitasking and working crazy hours. And, I give all the credit in the world for the sacrifices that folks have been making, because as we all know, it's not just work. This has impacted our family, education system, social network. It's impacted everything. So, it's just a complex environment right now. And I have all the respect and all the compassion for their space. It's been weird. It's been complex. And so there have been impacts. We're trying to mitigate them, but the impact.
And that's from an organizational point of view. When I ask the county manager, what can I do every day? The message is, we tell people, wear your masks, socially distance, get clean, wash your hands, wash your technological equipment. If we can get people to do those three things, that'll help everybody else involved in all of the service delivery systems. Because I remember early on, I had a very cranky email from a nurse, and I had to tell her, it doesn't really motivate me when you tell me you want to have a lynch mob and come to my house. But she just said, I need you to know that we are overloaded and terrified. And as the county manager points out, overloaded and terrified for 10 months. So our frontline healthcare providers, business people, all of us, everybody. But if we mask, if we wash our hands, if we socially distance, that gives us an edge until the vaccine takes effect. Good enough? Dr. McNichol, is there anything else you need to add to what we're saying now?
No, I think, you can protect yourself still, even if you're maybe lower on the priority list. You can still protect yourself from COVID by following what you mentioned, and I think we're going to continue with those messages. And like County Manager Boone said, our outreach messages will continue to improve as we have more knowledge about, when the vaccine gets here and how we're going to distribute it. But again, like he also mentioned, that there's so many moving parts that sometimes it's, the difficulty is making them all move in the same direction. So, and that's part of our goal here, is to make sure that as the vaccine becomes available, we can get it out as quickly as possible to those who are most in need, followed by everybody else.
Thank you, sir. We're grateful. County Manager, are we ready to move on?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, let's talk about veteran services.
Okay, we have Stephen on the line.
How you doing?
You are on, Stephen, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm just working on sharing this your PowerPoint. Just 1 second here, share. Then I'm gonna maximize this here. if it will go. So there it goes. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you for
perfect.
having
We
me,
can see that.
commissioners. Awesome, great. That's one hurdle overcame. But I wanted to, come in and give you guys kind of a snapshot of what the Veteran Services Office has been up to as far as gaining more momentum as far as adding new veterans to our system. So I'm just going to dive into it. My name is Stephen Bobbian, and I'm the newish Veteran Service Officer for Clatsop County. And I use the guidelines of the contract, with CCA and the VSO in the county. So let's get started. So introduction here. All right. So this is one of my favorite, mission statements of a veteran service officer. There's a different ones out there, but this one I really particularly liked because it mentioned dignity and compassion, which I think is universally great for any sort of facet of work when you're working with general public, but with veterans especially, I take this one to heart. I'm not going to read them verbatim. I'm just going to kind of briefly interject on some of the slides to give further updates. And if any questions are needed, I'll take those at the end of the PowerPoint. But so at the top here, I kind of listed the requirements that were on the contract. So these are our solidified outreach locations. They're not limited to just these, but these are the outreach locations that were available and are available now. So for the northern part, there's Clatsop Community College, the Veteran Resource Center. I haven't been there too much just because COVID-19 and in the college, there wasn't anybody there. And then I recently linked up with the library in Seaside, and they were gracious enough to let me know that I'd have a space there once COVID-19 health restrictions allow to meet with the veterans in the south side of town. But it certainly isn't limited to just Seaside. But these are the ones that I was able to get during my course since being in this office in August. And promotional material, I just got an email about the brochures I've ordered that should be shipped here soon. There's some sort of hiccup, but there's a total of 4 material that I like to give out. And most notably, I'd like to mention the non-service connected pension, which is a needs-based, income-driven program through the VA. So if a veteran has an injury that didn't necessarily start in the military, but is keeping them from working and gaining substantially gainful employment, they take their income and their assets, and they'll allow a specific monthly amount to go to the veteran to help offset some of the cost of living for them. And when I was designing the brochure, Clatsop Community Action has a SSVF program for the veterans to, help get housed or help offset some of the costs. And since they're both income driven, I kind of put a little bit of a blurb on what the SSVF program is, because odds are if they're qualifying income wise for the pension, they'll probably qualify income wise for the SSVF program. A second favorite of mine is a guide that I created. It's called Survivor's Guide for Veterans and Their Spouses. And it's a step-by-step informational booklet that explains what services the VA offers for geriatric intake, or what burial services are available for veterans, and what material and information one should have. So in theory, with this guide, a surviving spouse could, if they filled out the materials needed and info needed, they can hand me this guide, and I wouldn't have to barrage them with a bunch of questions at their, the greatest time of, loss. The next slide here is, it's a snapshot of what the brochures look like. So the above is the PTSD snapshot. The non-service connected pension snapshot with the SSVF program information there. The first one you see with the eagle is just a general overview of what a VSO does and what extent my services go to. The bottom left here, the Survivor's Assistance Guide, is the one I created when I was a VSO in Jackson County. And those were the most sought after, it seems like. I used to do a survivor seminar before COVID, so I'd present what burial benefits and what other things I do as far as VA goes, and I would have funeral, one of the funeral services there explain how they help with veterans, passed away veterans, and what they do to coordinate with the VA and let them know that the veteran has passed on, and a bunch of different VA people. But due to COVID, I want to get this going again here in Clatsop County once COVID is either, lower risk or, not a risk at all. But the center one is the brochure I've been sending out, not a brochure, sorry, a flyer. Been sending them out to hundreds of businesses in Clatsop County. And then the last one here is my business card, just to give you guys a look to see what it looks like. And I think it looks pretty good. So maximizing awareness and outreach, here's a handful of examples of what I've been up to, trying to adapt to this new normal of COVID. It doesn't make outreach impossible. It just makes it a little bit more challenging due to, can't say it enough, COVID-19. But been happy to coordinate and present anywhere pretty much that will have me. Working with community partners, these are just the ones that I have off the top of my head, but there's definitely been a few more there. But I feel this gives a pretty good snapshot of who I've been talking to and who I've been in contact with around the community of Clatsop County. And then let's see here. Becoming familiar with federal and state VSO regulations. This is kind of, it was a little bit tough because I've been doing this work for so long, so I didn't want to put I've been a VSO since 2017, but I have, and that in turn is synonymous with adhering to the VA federal standards and the ODVA's state standards as far as what they require and how things need to be filled out. And those in turn result in grounded rational claims and appeals. If I was not adhering to that, they wouldn't be quite as successful as far as getting granted or getting the appeal overturned. Here's some numbers from when the last quarter started until December. So these veterans, the total new veterans assisted, are veterans that were never in our system. It doesn't mean that they're new to Clatsop County. It just means that they never sought out information or benefits through the VA, at least through the county veteran service officer standpoint. Appeals, previous denial, appeals are as equal as part of the job as filing claims. A claim can be perfect when you send it out. It has so many hands and eyes that go into it. Things can easily go awry. So that's why when a veteran gets denied a claim, I usually reach out to them and let them know what my thoughts are and how we should go about, trying to reverse the denial. And through July 1st to the end of December, total retroactive money by employee, so that's specifically myself, is $145,355.88, which stem from past appeals that were pending or recent appeals that were granted. So of that, they're Clatsop County residents, so most likely that money is going to go back into the county's economy. And I think that's a pretty healthy number for the low veteran population this county has. So that's a good kind of a snapshot on how things are going. And these are kind of a couple of my favorite client success stories that since I've been here in this office. This gentleman here had been working on a specific claim for a while and hadn't appealed it. And he was one of the first veterans I talked to, and one of the first veterans I actually sent an appeal in. And it was decided quite quickly and very, very in favor of the veteran. So this quote is from an email he had sent me, and it's a great snapshot of why I do what I do, and just the appreciation from the veterans for helping them in this confusing kind of facet of their life. But that's one of them. And then another one here, this one I want to touch on a little bit more. So individual employability is a benefit for veterans that are service connected. And what it means is, so a veteran has a specific handful or an individual condition that's keeping them from gaining substantially gainful employment. When we assert this to the VA, we're saying, due to his or her service-connected disabilities, this is creating a barrier of employment. And even though they're not 100% when we file for these, when they get granted, they are still considered whatever percentage they are through the VA. But since those conditions are stopping them from working, they get paid at the 100% rate as a veteran who is 100% service connected, along with the same benefits. So it's kind of a big deal in a veteran's life when this gets granted, because it not only gives them more money to live off of. It when it's granted, it gives the dependents an opportunity to use the educational benefit, dependency educational assistance, which mirrors the GI Bill in respect that there is a stipend for the spouse, and so they can get a higher education and do better in the future, hopefully. As well, it gives the option of the spouse and the dependents to have insurance through the VA, and that's not the same as VA healthcare. This is a completely separate real insurance plan with an in-network system and all that for the veterans. So it's a comprehensive benefit that really pays itself off in dividends if it's granted. And I really love getting these ones granted, especially around this time when healthcare is scarce and income and employment is hard to come by. And this one was an absolute joy to get done for this veteran. And so that's kind of the end of my slideshow here. If there's any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Commissioner Yoka? Yeah? Well, Commissioner Aquila?
Just, this is probably answered in what you've presented, but I know that as we were Clatsop County was making transition to Clatsop Community Act, we heard from a lot of veterans that had an existing relationship with the previous veteran service officer. How has the outreach gone to those individuals? And have you had any stories about some of those that had that existing relationship, and have you been able to kind of gain their acceptance?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. And I've had a few have some feedback as far as where did the previous VSO go, and why did he leave? And I really don't touch on that with them too much. But as far as gaining the trust, I rely on my knowledge and information I can share to help that trust bridge be built. And I'm big on communication and returning phone calls within 24 business hours. And it hasn't been too tough. To answer your question. They just want help, and I'm just another VSO that can do it. No huge stories, just kind of backstories about how their claim had went and why they didn't appeal, or what information did the previous VSO ask them to have. And yeah, I'm not sure if that answers all the question, but overall it's been a positive experience. And I just kind of give the veterans an answer as far as what happened and why. I typically say I don't know why the previous VSO chose to move on, or chose to do a different line of work, but I really just try to be big and transparent to gain the trust of the veterans. And given my veteran background and my previous VSO positions, it seems to be going pretty well.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Stephen.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Excellent question, Commissioner Aquila. The thing that I notice is that I have a husband who's 81 years old, who's a
Hmm.
veteran, and I was having a fuss budget moment the other day. He said to me, Leanne, you know that you have a very capable veteran services officer in Clatsop County. I thought, oh. So even before we need you, the fact that you're there is very important to give us peace of mind. And we appreciate the caliber, I think, of your work with great respect and affection for your predecessor who did a fine job. So
Absolutely.
now we're moving forward. Yeah. I wonder, do we have a link from our county website that immediately we do? Okay, good. I just want to make sure everybody can contact you. Anything else you want to say to us?
Yeah, and as far as along the lines of contact, when I got into contact with the gal who designs our CCA webpage, and I asked her if she can put in it's kind of like an ask it basket deal where if a veteran were to go to our CCA webpage, and some people aren't huge on calling, without knowing some information first. So there's an area in our page where they can ask the question, which when they hit submit, it goes directly to my inbox here at Classic Community Action. And so that's just one of my favorite options to have to get in contact, because a lot of people go to the web pages, but I don't see too many having a direct question box that goes directly to myself, and that's paid off again in dividends, because they don't have to call, they don't have to look up the number, even though it's there. They can simply ask the question, and I get their email address, and then I kind of gain more of that contact through that way than schedule an appointment, and that's been great. And the community partners around here have been very forthcoming, very welcoming and kind, and to the extent where I have a relationship. I think it's a seniors with disabilities community partner that sends me, they have a lot of veteran seniors. They send me encrypted emails for veterans who have questions or most likely are eligible for benefits. That's just another connection I have, and I really appreciate the warm welcome the commissioners and this county's had for myself. But
Very
and
good.
that's
Thank
all I
you,
have.
sir.
Thank you so much, commissioners.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Mr. Bobian, for being with us.
My
County
pleasure.
Manager, we're ready to move on, right? Thank you. We're talking about Clatsop Plains elk and sorry, I've elevated her. Community Development Director Henriksen is ready to report to us.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon. This is Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director. I'm here this afternoon also with Manuel Padilla, who's with Oregon Solutions, and Paul Atwood with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we are here this afternoon to talk to you about two specific items related to the Clatsop Plains Elk Collaborative Project, and to get your direction and guidance on those two items. To briefly provide some background information, we started the Clatsop Plains Elk Project back in April of 2019 when the governor of the state convened this group with Mayor Balanceifer and Mayor Barber as the co-conveners. We have been working with local and state agencies, governments, private property owners, academics, and other stakeholders to try to come to a group of tools that we can use to address the conflicts that we're seeing between elk and human interactions, and find ways to de-escalate them, find ways to educate people about how to properly interact with wildlife in the county. And so to achieve that, we created this large group that broke into 4 subcommittees, which dealt with human behavior, elk behavior, data collection, and also land use issues. And as we worked through that and came up with our individual recommendations from these committees, we also developed this declaration of cooperation, which will be coming back to you at a meeting later in January for your review and consideration. But as part of putting those tools together, one of the items that has come out of the Elk Behavior Committee deals specifically with culling requests and how those would need to be possibly reviewed and approved or consented to by the County Board of Commissioners. And specifically, there are two scenarios that we would like to discuss with you this afternoon and get your direction on. The first scenario would be when a city has made a request to have elk culled, and the elk would be culled possibly on land that's in unincorporated county areas, not necessarily owned by the county, but just outside of the city limits, but still part of that elk herd that is within the city limits, if that makes sense. That would not require a formal resolution on behalf of the board, but it would require your consent and acknowledgement. The second scenario would be when a private property owner or private entity asks for elk culling on land that's in the unincorporated area, and that would actually require a formal resolution approved by the board. And so knowing that this item had not come before the Board of Commissioners in our various discussions and updates on the elk project, we wanted to bring it to your attention and allow you to have time to have a discussion about it, and also to give staff feedback. Specifically, what we would like to know is, do you want one, both, or none of these two scenarios included in our declaration of cooperation? And that if we include that in the cooperation, that is a commitment that the county is agreeing to make then to either provide consent for culling actions or issue a formal resolution as the situation may warrant. And again, I'm here with representatives from Oregon Solutions and Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they're really here to answer some of your more technical questions. If you have any, or any other questions, I will try to address as well. Thank you.
I do have a question. Be really specific with me. What does culling mean? Please clarify.
From my perspective, culling means culling. Culling means killing, but there may be a more technical definition that Fish and Wildlife may have, but it's basically killing of the elk.
Okay, so it isn't relocation, it is the animal dies. Because somebody's going to come and talk to us about this if we're talking about animals will die.
Yes.
Commissioner Tayoka.
Yes, I have a question about the, I read your proposal and I'm looking at the ODF and W participation. Have they done like census of the class of plain herds to know what is, they're obviously probably larger in scale of size, number of herds and the number of animals in each herd. Have they done the study, or have they done the could be called to make that a more sustainable herd within the class area?
Okay, I'm going to defer that question to Paul Atwood with Fish and Wildlife.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Paul Atwood. I'm the district wildlife biologist for the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife in the North Coast watershed out of Tillamook. To answer your question, yes, we do, as part of our regular elk surveys for the entire district that we cover out of the North Coast, we do fly the Clatsop Plains project area. We flew that last year and counted what we would call as to be a minimum count. We didn't do any sort of population modeling or estimating, but we tallied up total number of elk that we saw in each group in each area, and we're planning on doing that again this year.
And with that count now, have they looked into ODF and W with changing their hunting tags, or increasing number of cow elk tags to help mitigate the herd size in the Clatsop Plain, in addition to what this proposal?
Yes, the answer is yes. Where we have controlled hunt tags within the project area, we are increasing controlled hunt tags, and I would say that's the primary management tool for us to be able to control elk populations. Sorry, I'm at home with a baby. um, so yes, where we can, that's our primary management tool, and I mean I can let Manuel talk about a little bit more of the project background if we need to get into that, but primarily from my perspective, the reason that we're in an Oregon Solutions project is because many of our traditional wildlife management tools, such as controlled hunts, um, you know, don't fit when we're looking at elk populations, herds that reside primarily within city jurisdictions or densely developed unincorporated lands where we have just very, very dense homes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Banks?
I was actually just reflecting to follow up with what John is stating. Is this more of a population control idea for herd health and for health of the community, or is it like, I guess in comparison, if you're looking at the Classic Plains elk herd, is it larger? Is it more unmanaged? That's a difficult word to use. Is it an overwhelmingly large herd because of its location?
Yeah, based on everything that we can tell so far, I'll give a similar explanation of what I've given the city of Gerhardt. The populations appear to be growing exponentially. We counted within the project area last year. We counted. I think we had our eyes on 479 elk. That's not including a couple of different groups that we know exist that we could never find when we were flying. So we estimate that there's probably in the 550 to 600 range at minimum elk within the project area. And when we look at the population dynamics of these herds, because they have there's really limited sources of mortality. Many of these herds reside, like I say, in neighborhoods, within cities, in places like Surf Pines that are outside of city limits, but they're not really with any. There's no hunting mortality. Their populations continue to grow exponentially.
And under these two scenarios that are being presented, it's going to be under the umbrella of ODFW and your biologists and ecologists to make sure that if we proceeded, would be adhering to what is best for the health and well-being of the herd also?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Aquila?
Well, my only comment is I know that this says it goes back to April 2019. I know that Mayor Brown and Mayor Balanceford had been talking about this issue far before that, and there has been a lot of work that has been done over these years to try to find a solution. This is giving tools to ODFW to address the problem or address the issues. I certainly support both of them.
Thank you, Commissioner Aquila. Let me just talk about somebody who travels to the far south end of the county and sees a lot of tourist traffic stopped beside the road to look admiringly at the park animals. So this is considered a tourism amenity by some people. There are people also who are opposed to the killing of pretty much anything. That balances with business and homeowners and wildlife health, absent predators with changing conditions. So this is a very complex issue. I appreciate your points, all the points by all the commissioners. This is likely to be an emotional issue going forward. There are people who think it is their God-given right to feed wildlife and to promote this whole county as a park. They're loath to give that up. So I can expect that as we ask to have this come before us, which it's our job to do, and we're happy to do, we'll have some emotional testimony. So I think we have to be prepared to speak to people's emotional needs and to the idea that we human beings live in a balance and want to have a healthy wildlife and a healthy environment. So that's all true. Having said all that, well done in response to community needs that have been expressed repeatedly for years. So thank you for going forward with that. Yes, I think you need to bring us both proposals. That's how it seems to me. County Manager, would you weigh in, please?
No, I would just affirm that this has been a long-standing topic, and it's certainly something that has benefited from a lot of expertise and a lot of energy. And so I just want to thank the effort and thank everybody for actually bringing something that would be actionable for the community, because I think it's important to recognize the county is only one layer of as you look at the list of all the multitudes of partners on this issue. So I just want to thank Gail and all of the other participants of the process.
Again, with gratitude for your fine work, we're looking forward to continuing this community discussion and resolving it in a way that looks to the health of the wildlife and the health of the businesses and the health of the communities. Thank you. Please come forward when you're ready with it.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioners.
Transient room tax funding for the Arch Cape rural community, the 5-year plan. Mr. McLean? Or is it Assistant County Manager Steele, I see? Okay, are you going forward with this?
No, it's the Public Works Director.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon. This is Ted McLean, the Public Works Director. And with me is Terry Hendricks. He's the Assistant Director of Public Works. So we'd like to talk or let you know this afternoon of how we are managing the fund from the Arch Cape Rural Community District transient room tax, and our percentage of that fund, as well as our management plan. So we receive from that transient room tax about 30% of those funds. And in 2014, the commissioners dedicated that 30% for the purpose of making public road and drainage improvements, and it's primarily in the Arch Cape district, so Arch Cape boundaries of Arch Cape. So you can see in your map what that entails and the roads involved. It doesn't have them all named there, but there's quite a few roads in that area. So these are public roads, and they still are under the jurisdiction of the Public Works Department, County Public Works. There's a difference between public roads and county maintained roads. County maintained roads are roads that the county commissioners board has approved for county road maintenance. And public roads are mainly maintained by the public, the people that live on those roads. So we've run into lots of interesting discussions on how to maintain public roads, and this fund helps us in the Arch Cape area mainly. This fund, we use 75% of this fund directly to the Arch Cape community and their roads, and the other 25% we use on other public roads. So, and a lot of these roads that are being built today that are public roads have maintenance agreements attached to them. These particular roads and most of our public roads, which I believe we have approximately 140 public roads, and these make up, I think there's maybe 20 or so in this district. So you can see how that 25% that we receive is very minimally dispersed, and it's really just for taking care of potholes, maybe some brush cleanup, and possibly some emergencies that we have to attend to in those areas, maybe a tree falls or something like that. But otherwise, the public maintains those roads. So we've developed a plan. So this started in 2014, and then we let the fund build a little bit, and then we started communicating with the public and the community there who had public meetings, and with the fire chief in the Arch Cape area. And that's a lot of what this fund was helping us with, is so that we can get emergency management into those areas. Not emergency management, emergency services, fire trucks, ambulance. And they can get in there safely and take care of things. So it started with the fire chief, and the fire chief, first we found out all the boundaries of those roads and their right-of-way widths, and then we developed a plan with the fire chief to go through and start cleaning them up and maintaining. First off, it was vegetation, and then our potholes, and then we started grading, graveling some of the roads, and so on. Oops, forgot to turn on my camera, sorry. So that's how we have gotten started. And now after we've gotten started, we've put together a plan to help keep maintaining those roads while keeping our priorities on the roads that we're dedicated to maintain, that is county roads. So we feed this in when manpower is available, and it's usually in the fall that we come and do some of this work. And it's dependent. So we've laid out a plan, and that plan is somewhat flexible because other things sometimes take priorities. So Terry Hendricks might be able to discuss a little bit about the plan itself.
Good afternoon. Biggest problem that we have with the public roads down in the Arch Cape area is that and the Sunset Beach area are subdivisions that were created shortly after 1900. As such, they were not developed to current standards. Current standards require that the new development in the subdivision, that they would need to be paved. And so putting that burden on a property owner to take and pave a road in front of his house is a big problem, because one person will gain all the benefit. The next door neighbor doesn't have to pay anything for that. So what we did is we've gone through and we've looked at doing a chip seal, which is quite a bit cheaper, and doing that with the money from the Arch Cape Service District. And that's the 5-year plan that you see in front of you. There are a couple of items that we did not get done in 2020. The triple chips that we were planning on doing, we ran out of time and weather this year. We plan to move those into the 2021 season, or perhaps be able to take and do them this spring, depending on the weather. What we're asking for is for you to take a look at this 5-year plan and see if you believe that it is workable, if it's something that we should be using the money for, to be doing the chip seals in the Arch Cape area based on the 75%, that's where most of the money is to be spent, or if there is another direction that you would like us to go.
Thank you. That's my neighborhood, so I'm very interested in that. It's around the headland from me. So I really want to see this plan, and I want to do a drive around, walk around with it, because this is a big community issue, you know. So there are public roads that are built and maintained to public standards. There are private roads which are completely privately maintained and it's nobody else's business. And then this hybrid, which we have all over South County, along the coast particularly, is a privately maintained public road. And it's the system whereby people have access, including emergency services, which is essential. What we see is a wide variety in the, I want to say, the condition of the road. I mean, I'll leave it at that. There's a wide variety. And so it's essential to community well-being. I need, as the county commissioner that represents that district, to actually go around with you so that we're seeing what we're talking about. It's a be there joke. So let's set up a time when I can come and do that. County manager, I don't care who wants to come. Anybody who wants to come see it, y'all are welcome. But I need to see those roads and match it up with your plan so that I can see what you're talking about and we can communicate effectively, because that's the only way that I can do my job right. I'm grateful to you for the job that you do, and I'm looking forward to increased collaboration with you on this. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about that?
I just got one question. It's not a big amount. I just was curious about the ditch cleaning and spoils disposal and those being zeroed out. What was the reason behind just not doing ditches anymore?
I can't quite hear you.
Need to be closer to the mic.
Oh, I was just looking at the ditch cleaning and the spoils disposal, and I know it's zeroed out, and it wasn't a great deal beforehand, but I was just curious why that's not being done.
There's only money to be spent on there if we're actually hauling anything away. If we have a small slide on one of the public roads, then we take and, you know, money is put into that or is taken out of that for that purpose, and then it would show up there rather than zero.
Yeah, we didn't haul much material off at that time. I think we were trying to focus just on putting rock down on gravel roads. And I think we had to re-rock a road, so we didn't really touch the ditches at that time, but we are gonna start cleaning them all out.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Your hammer.
That's a public safety comment, right, sir? Okay, considered professional opinion. Thank you for this work. Thank you for this report. I can hardly wait to do more with you.
Okay.
County manager, is there anything else?
No, thank you, staff, and we will follow up, Commissioner.
So then, it's up to us to adjourn this public meeting, and the board will go into executive session. No?
We
It's
don't
on
have
the end of my
an
agenda. Are we
executive
just
session.
done?
We're done.
Well, thank you kindly. We're off and running. Let's do more. Let's do good. Let's have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank